Hello, everyone. This is Sarah from Heart to Heart Outreach. And as I said earlier, the last time I did a video, I did say that I will be coming back and now and again to do another one. And so I found a little bit of a chance to do another video. And I think we are going to enjoy it together and learn something out of it, because I don't know about you, I'm learning a lot out of this, and things that I never thought they existed. And I'm getting really, my mind is getting opened to them, and I walk with my eyes open, my mind open. I see things that average people don't see, and I'm becoming a help, in not only in my line of duty, but I'm becoming a help under general, to help people if they are experiencing things that I'm learning about. Then I find that I become much of a help. So I hope we are going to enjoy this together. We are continuing with the same topic of domestic violence, same topic of abuse and abusive personalities, because it's a wide range of a subject. It takes a wide range of things to complete this type of teaching, or whatever you want to call it. So we take it bit by bit, and then so I will be doing videos tackling one part of it, and then the next time the other part, or maybe even going back to the same part to elaborate more. So this is the subject that I feel at the moment, at this pointing time, I feel like we need to share and in it and educate each other, because it is very prevalent. I can assure you of that. It's very prevalent, and it causes huge damage in mental health and in people's mental health. So today we are going to look at the thing that is a major issue in the lives of people who have narcissistic personality disorders, or those who have traits. There's one thing that is a major problem in those people's lives, and this thing is shame. So we often wonder what is the main problem in the life of a person with a narcissistic personality disorder or traits. What went wrong in their childhood? The big problem in a narcissistic person's life is the inability to deal with or handle shame, which stemmed from childhood. So we are going to look at the origin of a narcissistic shame, not a normal shame, by the way. We all have moments where we are shameful of the things that we have done, or we haven't been good in areas we made faults, or we've fallen short, and that brings about shame. It's natural, it's human, but the difference is the average person will knows how, would have gained skills in childhood to deal with moments like that, when you feel ashamed because something happened, or you failed in an area, or you made a fault, or you made a mistake, or you've fallen short. You have learned skills in childhood how to deal with that and come out of it, or see it as a learning curve, and not even think twice about it. See it, oh, this is what happened, or I've done that, and then you learn from it. You don't dwell on it, you don't let it cripple you, or you don't bury it that much deep. You bring it to the surface, face it, deal with it, and move on. So that's the average person. But unfortunately, people with narcissistic personality disorders, they have not gained those skills in childhood, and that's what we are going to look at now. That's why these people are the way they are. It's because of this deep-seated shame that has been buried deep inside of them, that they are trying so hard never to have it surface, because they don't know how to deal with it. Not only that, they have ballooned that the shame. like treating a molehill as a mountain, making something big out of a very little thing. And that's how they deal with their shame. If they were to fall short, if they were to fail in an area, they feel the shame like everybody else. But in their case, they double that. It's 100 times, the way the average person would feel. And that's why it becomes such a problem, because they just balloon it and it becomes such a mountain of a problem for them, because they have not learned the skills to deal with it. So there's a commonly asked question in everyday life when people come across narcissistic people and they come to realize what they are actually dealing with. After gaining a little bit of knowledge, then they wonder, why are these people doing what they are doing, and why are they continuing? Do you think they know what they're doing? So this is a question that most people would ask. Why are they not stopping? Because they would have fed back to the narcissist that what you're doing hurts me. What you're doing is not good. The way you speak, the way you act, the things that you do, and all the defense mechanisms, all the backbiting, all the lies, all these things, they're hurting. They would have fed back to them, but then unfortunately these people don't take anything on board because they are protecting the shame. They don't really want to admit that they are what the other person say they are. So they would never bring themselves to that admittance of the feedback. And then so they keep doing what they're doing. They never change. And then so people start to wonder if they really know what they're doing, because they are not changing. So the answer is yes, they know. They know exactly what they're doing. They know that what they're doing is bad. They know what they're doing is hurting others. They know that what they're doing is problematic, and it comes at a cost, because it costs them relationships. It costs them good people live their lives, and sometimes they lose good opportunities because of that. They have gone through those things all their lives if they are an adult. So they know by now, if they are an adult, by now they know, because this personality develops in childhood, by now they know that this brings me negative outcomes, but they won't stop. They just carry on, because the main important thing to protect in their lives is the shame that is so deep-seated. If they are going to accept that they have fallen short, if they are going to accept that they have done something wrong, then the shame will surface, and they can not even go near anywhere bringing that shame onto the surface. So this shame grew out of their early childhood, before their brains had any ability to remember what, when, or how it happened. What they are doing when they go about life that way, hurting other people and trampling on other people's toes, what they are doing is acting out the illusion that they are faultless. So they are trying to hide that shame to prove that they are faultless. They are working at putting themselves as the perfect person who never makes a mistake. It's their psyche that is doing that. So they are trying so hard to prove that they are faultless. They suffer from a feeling of fundamental shame. And this, as we said, it started in childhood, where their brains have not had the ability to remember what, when, or how it happened. It is shame all by itself, and it drives them to defend against it at all costs, usually projecting their inner turmoil onto others. So last time, if you remember, I did a video on projection, and projection is when the people with this type of personality, they would, if they did something that is undesirable or something that brings them shame, then they throw that at somebody else. They blame somebody else or accuse somebody else of having done this thing that they did. And then by so doing, it's a defense mechanism, by the way. So they are protecting the shame. By so doing, they are making sure that they are not accepting the fault, they are not taking responsibility, they are not being accountable. And then if they are not being accountable, if they are not responsible, then the shame will stay where it is. And that's where they want it. So if they are going to say, yes, I've done that, yes, I've said that, yeah, yes, I'm sorry, then the shame comes in. We all experience it. When we've done something and people feedback to us and say, by the way, what you said, I didn't feel okay, when you said this. I felt this when you said this. Most of the time we will say, oh, I'm so sorry, I apologize. But that comes with shame. I feel ashamed a little bit, when I realize that I haven't been good. It's just normal, it's human. But then I deal with it immediately. Okay, next time then I'm not going to say something like this. Next time then, in a situation like this, I'm not going to act that way. So that's how we learn. Then we deal with it, we just forget and carry on with life. But with them, because they have elevated this shame to 100 times the amount that it actually is, then it becomes such a huge mountain that just crashes onto their psyche, and it can just disintegrate their psyche. So they have to protect it, that it doesn't come out. And so they project onto others and then push the blame to somebody else. And this pushing the blame onto somebody else, that person who is now being painted and labeled as the bad doer, is going to be hurt. We know that because the person knows that they did not do that. But here they are being blamed for something that they did not do. Under normal circumstances, that person is going to feel bad. So that's how then they go about life, hurting people and getting the consequences of losing people in their lives, because that person who has just been projected onto is going to leave, definitely will leave the narcissist, just the same way as everybody else that has been in that situation. So over life, they have lost valuable people, valuable relationships in all areas of their lives. When I say relationships, I'm not talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about, it could be business, it could be family, it could be teaming up in any area. It could be, even relatives, anything that, warrants a relationship to happen. They have problems in that area, and it's because of how they do life. They don't care. They can even project on their boss, and they can lose a job by doing that. They can project on anything, and then they lose whatever they were gaining in that situation. So they live a life of losing all the time, but they can never stop doing life that way, because if they stop, then they have to admit that they were not good enough. And then if they admit they were not good enough, then the shame has to come into the surface. So when it comes into the surface, it needs to be dealt with. Then this is a person who has not gained the skills to deal with it. So they are going to be sitting with something that they can't deal with. You see where it's coming from. So as I said, we have all had moments of shame. It's not a nice feeling. In fact, as far as human emotions go, shame ranks among the most powerful of all negative emotions. What causes it? Usually an action that didn't go well, or a mistake, or a failure to accomplish something the person set out to do, or a social embarrassment. When you did something wrong, you get embarrassed. Anyway, it's just life. That's how it is. Every single person has had that moment. If you think back on your childhood, you would remember the times when, as a toddler, you fell when you were learning how to walk, and you fell, and that was such an embarrassment because you wanted to master this walking thing, and then you take 2 steps, 3 steps, and then you fall. Then that's why the child cries, because the crying is not because they're hurt. The crying is not because of the pain of falling or the scratches that they sustained. The crying is the shame that they feel. They cry because they are so shameful. But then in a normal childhood, they would get rescued from that shame by the caregiver. So we will come to that as we go. This illustrates the basic fact of memory. If whatever happened carried with it a strong emotional component, negative or positive, our brains are likely to remember it. Negative or positive, our brains are likely to remember it. This is in childhood. So our brains are going to remember that in adulthood. Whatever positive or negative happened, that age of 0 to 2 years, we are going to remember as adults, and that is going to be the main component that would guide us as to how to go about life and interactions in adulthood. The emotion of the event makes certain that the event gets remembered, and the neural pathways for the event and its emotion are wired together in our memory. This is normal, and this is most people. This is what most people would do. But what if the emotional component gets wired without any wiring of the event that caused it? There is this feeling of shame all by itself without any event to explain it, to quantify it, to help you resolve it. It's like the color blue without any blue object. It's like the shame of the shame that happens in a narcissistic personality disorder is, as I said, they exaggerate it. It's the psyche, it's not them. It's automatic. It's exaggerated to a point where it is the amount or that is non-existent. The same thing that another person has experienced, the same amount of shame that another person has experienced, the average person has experienced, and they have moved on. They have told themselves, I'm not going to do that again because I know now that it affects others, and I learn. Then they go on to learn healthy ways of interacting with others. The same amount that that person could deal with and move on is the same amount that the person with narcissistic personality disorder is experiencing. But in their case, it's so huge because they lack the skills to deal with it. And that's why the psychologist is saying that it's like you see blue in something that is not blue. You know, people are looking, they see this thing is white, but you see blue because it is non-existent. But you are treating it as if it's there. It's an illusion. The feeling of shame is there, and it is hardwired. It is all alone. You don't know where it came from, so you can't say, well, I won't do that again. You are at the mercy of your shame neural pathways. So your brain has not learned to deal with the shame. So you don't know where it's coming from. The brain cannot find out or detect where this shame is coming from, and then if you can't detect where the shame is coming from, you just can't deal with it, and then you can't say, okay, I won't do it again. For you to come to that place where you say, I won't do it again, is when you have detected where it's coming from and accept that you have done what is you are said to have done, and see it for what it is, and say, oh yeah, it's wrong, I do see that I really messed up there, but I won't do it again. But with narcissistic people, that's why they carry on doing what they are doing and how they interact with people, because they can't accept, they just don't see the origin of this shame. We see the origin of the shame is because I did something wrong. They don't think they can do something wrong. They are this perfect person, this faultless person. So how on earth can they have done wrong? So that denial is pushing them now into not accepting and not seeing where this shame is coming from. So they can't change. How can they change? They just can't. How did that happen? When toddlers have a little mishap or can't perform a little task, they often cry. Nature made sure mom would come to their rescue. And to assure them that it's all right, communicate to the toddler that they are loved and accepted even when they fail. So this is the nature, how it goes under natural circumstances, nature, caregivers. If a child falls, they are learning to walk, they fall, then they cry, not because it's painful, they cry because they're feeling shame. The mother will say, oh, that's okay. The mother would come to their rescue, pat them on the shoulder, you've done so well, don't worry, That child is going to learn that, oh, even when I fail, my mom still loves me. My mom still smiles at me. My mom still congratulates me. My mom still approves of me. That child of 1.5-year-old, a toddler, is going to take that into adulthood, to know that I'm not defined by the mistake I do. So when I made a mistake, that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. That doesn't mean my mom is going to stop loving me because I made a mistake. I'm still loved even when I made a mistake. The only thing I need to do is to learn from that mistake and not do it again. So they learn that at that age because of how the mother dealt with them when they did a mistake at that early age. That's where we are coming from. And then crying is sure to get mom's attention. That's in a toddler's life. Of all created animals, only we humans produce tears because we need the trust of others and teamwork on many levels to survive. And that requires a high level of psychological and social development, ability to accept our limitations and the limitations of others. You see. So the problem with people with narcissistic personality disorder and those with traits is that they cannot accept a mistake because they've got to be perfect. We said so. They've got to be faultless. So if they are now going to accept that they have done something wrong, it is going to touch on their shame, because if for everybody else, if you do something wrong, you feel that shame. So it's up to you to deal with it. It's up to you to see it for what it is and not magnify the shame and make it a big thing when you could just treat it at that level where it is. Deal with it, accept that it's wrong. I'm not going to do that again. But narcissists can't do that. So then they tend to not accept that they can have limitations. And if you can't accept that you have limitations, how are you going to accept that other people can have limitations? That's the reason why people with narcissistic personality, they tend to put the bar very high for other people, to achieve their goals or to work at that unachievable level, and then people get they get undone in that environment, because the narcissist will it's got this perfection as psyche. They are obsessed with being perfect. They are obsessed with being faultless. They are obsessed with being good, better than anybody else. They are the best person in the room. So now everybody that associates with them have to be at that level, and the bar keeps rising and rising. Very difficult for people to reach the bar that the narcissist has created, and then people get frustrated in that kind of environment, and that's one reason why they lose people, because people can't just keep up. It's way too unrealistic, and then they leave with frustration. So because they can't accept that they have limitations, then they can't accept that other people can have limitations. They don't have that mercy in them to say, oh, I can see you have made a mistake. That's okay, that, don't worry about that. Let's continue. They don't have that ability. If someone makes a mistake, they will really hold on to that mistake that that person has made, to a point where, or not release that person or refer to it all the time, reminding the person of what they've done, because they just can't forgive a mistake in their own life, let alone in other people's lives. They can't forgive themselves, and how can they forgive somebody else? So that's how it goes in these personalities. We were talking about how mothers deal with little mishaps and frustrations and failures that happen in toddlers, and then this brings mom to their side to console and encourage the child. And then these are little lessons in shame repair. So the toddler, when they get that positive affirmation from the mother, then they learn how to repair their own shame. So the mother is helping them, is doing them in the first instance. When the child is that little, the mother is actually doing it for the child, is repairing the shame on behalf of the child, for the child. But the child is in turn learning from the mom how to repair shame. Then they learn as time goes on to repair the shame themselves. They don't now depend always on the mom to repair the shame for themselves. At a certain age, they start now to repair the shame for themselves. They know that, oh, if I failed, maybe I got 50% mark, on my exam, and then they come and show it to the mom or the parents, and then the mom can just say, oh, no problem, learn from that, and then next time make sure that you study well, and then they know. So next time they are not even going to be relying on what the mom is saying. They are going to have it in them to say, oh, I got 50%, doesn't matter, I still have another go, at least I haven't been taken out of the class. So the next exam I'll make sure that I get 70 or I get 80. So that's how they repair. They forgive themselves in a way, then they repair, then they accept that they have not worked well. That's the first step. Accept that you've made a mistake, you have not worked well. That's the first step. Then the second step is to console yourself. It's not the end of the world, I'm going to do well next time. That's how they repair their shame, something that narcissistic people don't have. It's a skill that they lack. So it goes on to say, we learn that it's not the end of the world to make mistakes. Mom does, we do, everyone does. So life is good. And this skill acquired by the age of 2 is what allows us to enter adult life. I did say that you take that which you learned in that period of 0 to 2 into adulthood. Things that happened during that time span in a toddler's life is going to be vital in their adult life. So the skill acquired by the age of 2 is what allows us to enter into adult life later, handling our limitations, helping others and appreciating the help we get from them, having confidence in ourselves and in others. After the age of 2, the opportunity to learn shame repair is over. That's what psychology says. Shame, especially shame repair, can only be learned from 0 to 2. Anything outside of that, you are too late, because after the age of 2, there are other things now to learn. That is developmental milestones. You have other things to learn, like how to talk and stuff like that. So you are progressing. Your mind is progressing. It's not going to be delayed. And staying on that age of learning how to repair shame, when they are now is now supposed to be learning how to talk. So you continue when there's a gap now that is left that you are going to carry into adulthood. So we have 2 types of mothering styles. Psychology says that when it comes to especially to do with shame, how to deal with shame, especially, we know that 2 parents are required to do a good parenting to a child. But when it comes to shame repair, they say the mother is the most important person of the parents to help the child to develop shame repair. So we are going to look at two types of mothering styles. There's poor mothering. Some say is under mothering. If our early upbringing, our mishaps, and cries for help gets mom's comforting assurance and patient encouragement, we master the much needed art of shame repair. So, but if our failure produces in mom impatience, disdain, and disappointment, shame repair is not learned. Constant expectations from mom, which we cannot meet, can lead to our concluding that we are indeed not good enough. So here is this mom who is supposed to be under mothering, and in most cases in the narcissistic personality, this type of mom would themselves have been a narcissist. So what they are doing to their child is what was done to them. And then they were raised by a narcissistic mother, then they became a narcissistic mother, and then they are doing a narcissistic raising of their children. And unfortunately, that child that is in the receiving end is going to become a narcissist. That's how it runs in families. And then, so we fear that we might be abandoned because of that, how the mom reacted to our failures. A toddler falls, and then they miss a step, and then the mom expresses disdain, expresses they don't appreciate them, they don't accept them, they deny them, they disapprove. Then that child is going to think that they are not good enough, and they will carry that into adulthood. It gets deep wired in their psyche to say that they are not good enough, they can never do anything right. So now, as a toddler, they now have to deal with, how can I rid myself of this negative feeling that is always there? So we will come to that. And that is what is now forming this personality that is called narcissistic. The way that they deal with this shame, the way that they deal with this negative feeling, the way that they deal with this constant feeling of inadequacy, unworthiness, and not good enough, how they deal with it is now turning them into a narcissistic person. So we will come to that. They now, we fear that we might be abandoned because of that. When the mother doesn't approve of us, when the mother is not accepting of us, she may leave me. And then failure is not okay because the mom is angry. I made her angry. She doesn't like me because I've done something wrong. And that we are ashamed of our failures, and we are even ashamed of being ashamed. So that's just how horrible the whole thing has become to that toddler, just because of how the mother that is under mothering, or being a poor mother, has dealt with the fault that the little child has made. So it has made a mountain out of a molehill, and that child is going to carry that into adulthood. So mother number 2 is too much mothering. These two types of mothers are wrong. Very little mothering and too much mothering, both of them are wrong, and they create wrong personalities in children, and they carry those in adulthood. Over mothering can be just as harmful. Mothers who dote on their kids to the point of smothering them. Kids need the freedom to make mistakes. They realize that these were little failures, and then receive just enough consoling and encouragement so they feel good about continuing to explore the world and their place in it. Over mothering gives out a message of, in order to maintain this stream of praise and adulation, I have to continue to be perfect. Can you see? So if you are over mothering, you tend to not you tend to do things for the child. You don't give the child the opportunity to explore, the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to fail. You end up doing things for the child. You end up overbearing, you are domineering, you are controlling. And then the child doesn't really experience their uniqueness. They don't experience their individualism. And then as a result, then they tend to think that they are not good enough. That's why mom has to do things for me. That's why mom has to, because if I was to do it, I would never do it right. That's how they perceive it now. And then they now tend to believe that for me to be acceptable by mom, and in both mothers, the under mothering and the over mothering, they tend to think that if for me to be acceptable by my mom is for me not to do any fault, then that's when I will be loved. Every child craves the love of a mother. Every child is just normal. They crave the love of a mother, and they will do anything whatsoever to get that type of love. So if in this case they perceive that for my mom to love me and accept me is for me to be perfect, that's what they're gonna do. They will strive to be perfect. They will strive to see themselves as faultless and to prove to the mom that it's not me who has done that, because if I do that, mom will love me. So that's how this personality is formed in early development. And then the child does not grow emotionally. Growing requires room to make mistakes. The ability to know that if you try and don't succeed, you keep on trying again and again. Mom was your natural coach. So if you had a good mom, then you had a good coach. If you have under mothering or over mothering mom, then your coach was not good, unfortunately. And then to defend against the fear of being abandoned, some toddlers found out pretty soon what makes mom happy and what doesn't. Like animals in a lab, they shape their behavior to receive the reward of mom's approval and to avoid the pain of her disapproval. The learned adaptive behavior is what is referred to as the false self, a major feature of narcissistic personality. A false self. That's how this mask, people talk about wearing masks in narcissistic personalities. That's how the mask comes into being, because now they gear themselves as being that perfect person, which they are not, because nobody is perfect. But because they had to learn at an early age to be accepted by their mom, so they had now to be this perfect person. They have trained their psyche, and it's wired so deep in their psyche that they have to be perfect to get the approval of the mom. And then if now they stick with their mom, even in adulthood, it's even worse. If that mom was a narcissistic mom and then they stick with this person for life, even in adulthood, can you imagine the reinforcement, the continuation of that mothering even in adulthood? So that person will never learn to accept mistakes. They will never learn to accept limitations. They will strive at being perfect because they are still craving for the love of their mom. And then so because everyone is prone to making mistakes, and it is normal. That's why people with narcissistic personality or traits are seen to deny their mistakes, try and hide them, and project them onto others. Everyone else can make those mistakes, but it can never be them, you see. So we did talk about being able to accept your limitations so you can be able to accept other people's limitations, which is a skill that narcissistic people do not have. And that's why they end up raising the bar for people to reach and function at that unreachable level or unrealistic level. And then that is breaking people, and people will end up just leaving because they just can't function at that level that is so unrealistic, and then so it's just because they deny the mistake, they deny the fallen short, they just can't accept that they can't be perfect, they can't be function at level above everybody else, because they have to be above everybody. That's what they are striving at doing. Very competitive. Everything that they do, they are looking at others, what they are doing. Then they want to do it better. They do the same thing, but they want to do it better than the other person. So they are always competitive. And most of the time they are not creative. They don't do things that they created. They do things that they see other people doing, but they strive to outdo those people. And then when they sense that they have failed, we said that earlier, then they project. Instead of them accepting, they throw that mistake onto somebody else. And that's how they survive in life. And then this can work for certain periods, but the price of this protective strategy is a person who replaced who and what he really is with fabrication, false persona. Any human being lacking the skill of shame repair is haunted forever by that early feeling of inadequacy that drove them to develop this false self in the first place by the age of 2. Can you see? They are haunted. They live a life of constant haunted by this shame that they carry. They don't have a minute of peace inside of them. They are haunted by this shame, and they are constantly trying very hard to hide it, and they do everything to keep it where it's supposed to be, and never let it surface and come to the fore, so they can deal with it. They spend the rest of their lives acting out this fabrication, seeking validation from others, dismissing their limitations and mistakes, avoiding anything that could possibly cause them shame, and denying any responsibility in order to keep the bubble of this false, perfect, self-inflated person they have now become. Can you see? It's a disorder, and it's all in the mind. They are striving to be seen as this person who wins all the time, they never fail. Mistakes that they have done, they take them out of their lives. They deny them. They lie about them. They do everything to rid them of those things. Try everything to convince everybody to see them the way they have created themselves to be, this false person that they are not. Everybody has to see them that way, and that's how they survive. And they work very hard at convincing people that this is who I am. Don't search, don't look deep, just look at me. All these fakes, false behaviors that they are trying, mirroring good people, how good people or normal people are doing stuff. They mirror them, they copy them, and then they do those things, and then they just look at what I'm doing. This is who I am. They don't want people to look beyond this, fake behaviors that they are trying to put on to appear to be a good person, a perfect person for that matter. This is simply the adult continuation of the survival adaptation they made when they were still a toddler. They learned this in childhood, as we say. They learned now to survive by being perfect, by being this person that they are not, because nobody is perfect, but they put themselves in that person that doesn't exist, that person that is perfect, that does not exist. But they put themselves there. So they strive all their life to be that type of a person, and they expect everybody else that associates with them to function that way, and they put the bar higher and higher every day for people to reach, which is impossible. And that is the genesis of narcissistic personality disorder. In closing, people who are able to repair shame learned in childhood just automatically apply it in their lives without even thinking. It's part of being human. Those who do not have the skill are driven by their childhood feeling of worthlessness and are constantly in fear of being exposed. Any little thing can trigger their defenses. These defenses and the panic behind them override any acceptance of truth, fairness, or consideration of others. They are trapped inside a bubble of their own creation, which they protect at any cost. So as I said, they are constantly in fear of being exposed. What are they afraid of being exposed for? They are afraid of the shame that is so deep-seated inside of them. What are they being afraid to be exposed about? As we said, why are they so afraid, of having limitations? They are being afraid of being found out that they have fallen short of perfection. They have limitations, and that they are ordinary. They want to be seen as extraordinary. They want to be seen as a winner. They want to be seen as a hero. They want to be seen as that person that is just high up there. So if you suggest to them that you are ordinary, you are like me, you are like everybody else, then you trigger the shame. To them, it's not like you are like me, you are like everybody else. To them, you are actually saying you are not good enough. That's what they're hearing. You are not good enough. If somebody said you are like me, I won't have a problem because I don't see anything wrong with them. So if they are saying I'm like them, I'm okay with it. But for them, I can't be like you because you are ordinary. I've got to be high up there. So if you take me down to your level, then you are insulting me, then you are saying I'm not good enough. Then it triggers the shame. And that's why they have a problem with in interactions, in conversations. They pick up things that the person is not actually saying. Then they lash out at what they are perceiving. They feel this subconsciously all the time, this haunting feeling of shame, without understanding why or how it started, that others go about their lives without it, or how to get rid of it. It is literally all in their minds, and it is hardwired. As I said, it's something that is not true. It's something that is false. It's something that is exaggerated, and then but then their mind sees that way. Somebody can look from the outside and say, why would you be worried, about that? And because, it's just nothing. But to them, because of how their shame was dealt with in childhood, it has always been made to be a mountain, even if it wasn't, it was a small thing, angering the mom, making the mom disapprove of them, making the mom not accept them, and then they have had to find themselves striving so hard to win the love of the mom, to win the care of the mom, to win the acceptance of the mom. So that has been a very bad life for them at that early age. So they don't want anything that will take them back there in adulthood. They fight tooth and nail to come out of that type of situation. So to peel away the layers of this false self and the harsh, strong defenses that keep it inflated, and to recover the true self, are the challenges of therapy. So, as we know that this is a psychiatric diagnosis, maybe issue, because some people who have traits, it's not a full diagnosis. Some people have picked up traits. Some people are worse than others. But at the end of the day, it needs a insight. Insight is to say, I admit I've got this problem. I admit I affect people negatively, and I can see how it affects my relationships and interactions with others. I can see how it affects maybe my successes and everything else. So I am now going to work towards getting rid of this thing that is in me. And you do that by seeking help. Unfortunately, people with this personality, they never seek help. So therapy is the most apparently is the most effective way of making them aware of what exactly is going on, allowing that shame to surface and come to the fore. Then they learn at whatever age they are to have the skills to deal with the shame that they have, and then they may not be 100%, but they will gain something out of it, and then they can live better. They can become aware. They will have this self-awareness, and when you have the self-awareness, then you can deal with things differently as opposed to how you have been dealing with them before. Emotionally, they are like a 5-year-old in the bodies of an adult. As I said, that most of them, psychology said, they get stuck. Remember that the shame repair was supposed to have been learned, or it is learned at the age of 0 to 2. So if you miss that period, you will never learn the shame repair. Even if you go to therapy, it can never be 100%. It's just going to be to a level, but not really fully there. But it will make you aware and make you able to admit that you have faults and everybody else has faults. It's normal. It will help you at least to come to that place where you can admit that I have faults and I'm allowed to have faults, and I will work at them and better myself and not do them again. So that is now approaching life in a positive manner, as opposed to putting that much strain on yourself to be perfect, which you can never achieve. Still yearning. They are 5-year-olds still yearning for unconditional love nature had promised them, but which their mothers failed to provide. The fundamental flaw in the mind of a person with narcissistic personality is a sense of shame and inadequacy, unworthiness, not good enough. That's who they see themselves. That's what they feel inside. And we know that people with narcissistic personality, they wear masks. They come across as opposite of what they really are because of this self-false that has developed to deal with the shame. So they wear this false self everywhere they go. So to unsuspecting people or the average person, this narcissistic person comes across as highly confident, very achieving, bold, strong, always winning, able to do things. And it's all a pretense, because they have to put on this false self. Deep down, they know, behind closed doors, they go back to the person they really are. And that's why the people that they are close to and people that they live with, they see a different person when they are out there, as opposed to the person that they see at home or the person that they see when they are alone. So that's how they have this a double personas, a person for the public and a person for the close acquaintances or relatives or friends or whatever the case may be. So they need to uphold that all the time to get rid of the shame. And the poor person is cursed. This is the narcissist, cursed with this haunting feeling, and will use others to try to purge their mind of this inner turmoil, even if it's just going to be temporary. As long as it will relieve the turmoil for 1 minute, they will do whatever it takes to relieve that. It doesn't matter. That's why they try to make you feel worthless and not good enough. That's projection. So they project their feeling of worthlessness, inadequacy, not good enough. They project it to other people, because to carry those feelings with them around is going to psychologically shatter them. So they would rather take those negative feelings, throw them at somebody else. So what do? They then point at others and refer at somebody. They would always have someone that they would put those negative attributes to them. That one saying to everybody else that that person feels inadequate, that person has a problem with self-esteem, that person has a problem with confidence, when actually it's them that are having those problems, but they are trying to take the attention away from themselves to an innocent person who has no issues whatsoever in those areas. So that when they do that, they are trying to get these people not to discover what they are trying to hide by looking at that person that they are projecting onto. And it happens, they get successful, because people will now start to look at the person they are now pointing a finger at. That person sometimes doesn't even know that is what is being said about them. And then everybody is focusing on them because this narcissist is saying this about them. And then by so doing, then they don't look at the narcissist. If they look too closely and too deeply at the narcissist, they will discover those negative qualities. But because the narcissist is diverting their attention somewhere else, then they don't look at the narcissist, then they don't discover those things in the narcissist. It takes someone who has been educated, someone who has learned this thing, someone who has come across it to know that it's not that person, it's you. It takes that. That's the reason why we need to learn. That's the reason why, because innocent people are suffering. And then, the people that are carrying those negative things, projecting them on innocent people, sometimes, is hard, on the innocent people that are being used as scapegoats. So knowing these things is, it helps. That's why I say it may not happen to you. It may not even have happened to you. It may not have happened to somebody you know. It may not have happened to anyone. But you never know. You are still on this earth. You are still alive. Somewhere along the way in your life, you are going to be a help to somebody. So it's good to know. It's good to be educated, and it's good to to be aware of all these things, so that innocent people don't continue to suffer. If the narcissist doesn't want to get help, then we will be protecting other people from them, because you can make that person aware that, don't worry, it's not you, it's them, and that can help that person to see that somebody understands what is going on. Somebody understands what I'm going through. By you understanding can help that person that is being victimized, and scapegoated into believing that they've got support. And this takes you to know, you to have been educated, you to have gained the self-awareness, for you to help the one that is being victimized. Unlike us being at the mercy of the narcissist, who will just twist us around their little finger and then get them on their side and teaming up against an innocent person with them, which is damaging even more to that person who is innocent, because we lack knowledge. We don't see beyond what we see in the narcissist, and then we fall into the trap of helping them. And then it is just enabling the narcissist to carry on living the way they live. We are enabling them. We are encouraging them to go on and on and on in their life, to do what they are doing. That much damage to innocent lives. So, and then, it continues to say that here that they will try and make the victim feel worthless and not good enough, always raising the bar. I mentioned that earlier, that they raise the bar that people will never reach. The victim becomes their punching bag. This is the person that they are projecting onto, and then the person that they are projecting onto is usually the person with good traits, and then they copy the good traits that they see in that person, and then they mimic them, and then they portray that to the public, and then they make the public believe that they are just as good as that person that they are projecting onto. and then, or they are just as good as the average person, and then they say that one is not good because they have these negative things, because they are throwing everything that is about them to that person, and then they are stealing, in a way, they are stealing the good things from that person and taking them onto themselves. They are learning from that person, but they are learning in secret, and then they are taking those things and put them onto themselves to what, to present to the world out there, and then they fake it, and then the world, unfortunately, because the world is not educated in this area, they then believe that the narcissist is the person they are presenting to them, and this is the false self that we are talking about. And then in the meantime, the scapegoat, who has good traits, is being painted with a black paint, and then they look like they are the one that is bad. Then the narcissist gets away with murder. That's how it goes. That's how this personality is dangerous, and it lands people in psychiatric settings. That the scapegoat is the one that is going to land up in psychiatric setting if they don't get help, because they are being painted with all this, and they are being treated by everybody as the person that the narcissist is portraying to them. And then copying the good traits of the scapegoat, the way the scapegoat does life, because they are envious of the scapegoat, but not for the scapegoat as accomplishment. The scapegoat is this person that they are projecting onto. They are not envious of the scapegoat's achievements and accomplishments or success or anything like that. They are envious of the scapegoat's personality. The things that they see in the scapegoat that are so good, the way the scapegoat go about with life, the way they interact with people, the way they are just as a person, they are envious of that, because that's what they don't have. They have the opposite, which is horrible and horrendous. So they now get envious of that person, not because the person is successful, but because the person is the way they are. And and then they see that the person hasn't got this shame, deep-seated shame. They know how to deal with shame. When they do something wrong, they come out of it very quickly. When they fall short, they just don't even think twice about it. They are accepting of other people's faults. They are accepting of other people's limitations. They are just like that, and then they are envious of that because they can't do it that way. So that's the thing that they hold, or they hold on to the scapegoat about. That's why they are envious of them, and it's because of how the scapegoat is doing life. But then they don't communicate that to the scapegoat. They will never say to the scapegoat, I envy you because you've got this quality, you've got this quality. They will never do that, because that will now confirm to them to say they are admitting that they have fallen short, they are admitting that they are not good enough. That will trigger the shame. So they can never bring themselves to feedback to the good person to say, I envy you because you are so good, or I admire you because you are so good. They will never say that. They will talk about themselves in the false self. They will talk about themselves as this perfect person, this good person, which is all false, because that's what they've acquired as they were growing up in childhood, from childhood to where they are today. So this is a very serious thing, because the person is damaged, obviously, but then they are now going on damaging other people. It's not just them damaged, it's just them damaging other people. So this now brings us to the end of our talk today, and I hope you have really learned a lot. I learn all the time. I learn all the time, and I work in a setting, as I said, I keep saying this, I work in a setting that I in mental health, and I do come across a lot of people that have been damaged by this type of people, in every setting. It doesn't have to be, intimate relationships, although most of the time it is, but, it's not always intimate. It can be family, it can be mother, father, it can be siblings, it can be relatives, it can be work colleagues, it can be boss at work, it can be, in business, partners, it can be, every, setting, every setting, including even religions, so it takes a whole lot of and a whole spectrum of life for this to manifest. So that's the reason why we need to be aware of this. And that's why I'm doing this, because I see people that come seeking help very damaged by this. And I feel like this needs to be known out there, because there are people that are teaching on this and talking on this, but then if many of us get to the knowledge of this and spread this knowledge, and make as many people as possible to be aware of this, then many people that are victimized can really be helped. And who knows, maybe even people who are suffering from this personality can come to a place where they now admit and seek help for themselves, and then live a better life thereafter. So yeah, as I said, this is the end, and thank you very much for listening. I know putting up with everything that I have had to say, but as I said, I think it has helped you. So thank you very much. And before I go, I just wanted to remind you of my book that is still available on Amazon. And if you go on my website, www.sarahmoloi.org, there's a portion where you can access it there, and it will lead you to purchasing a copy. And also, if you just go on Google and Google it by name, it will pop up in many bookshops now. You can get a copy, and please do purchase one, and support us in this work, because when you support us, then we will be able to spread our wings and support others as well. We are not just doing this, domestic violence. We're not just dealing with domestic violence as such. We are doing a whole lot of other works that the Lord is bringing in our hands. We are endeavoring to do a lot more. We are looking at helping people who are coming out of prison. This is something that we are endeavoring to look into and start. We have taken a step of faith, and then we need to grow in it and help those who are coming back from jail and being incorporated into society, helping them from baby steps to using the skills that they learned in prison and do something with their lives. So this needs us to have the resources to help these people. When they come out, they don't have a penny to their name, they don't have a place to live, they don't have anyone. Some have been abandoned by their families. Some are they don't have anyone, totally anyone. So this is what we feel the Lord is calling us to do as well. So we don't just do domestic violence abuse, but we are looking at a wide variety of things that the Lord is allowing us to do. So your help by purchasing materials and will help us move even more further into the hand of helps to help people that have fallen short in their lives to come back up. Everybody needs somebody to come back up. Everybody needs support. So your help is very, very much important to us. And please do like and share and comment, and the videos that we put on YouTube as well. And we need to know your feedback, even on my blog, on the website. You can leave a comment there, and just let us know how we are doing, and also if you have any suggestions as to what things we need to talk about, you can suggest those things, and then we will consider those things. So yeah, as I said, I will keep on bringing bit by bit, because it's a wide range of things. So next time I'm going to be looking at the mother-child relationship dynamics in people with narcissistic personalities, because as we said, the mother is the most important part of this person's life. And then so we are going to be looking at the mother-child relationship, what happened there, and what happens in this type of personalities as relationships with their mothers, what led to them being the way they are, and then so that's something that I'm going to be bringing with my next video, which I can't tell you when, but it will come when I'm ready. So yeah, bye.